The girl who walked into the dark. There are mysteries that feel like fractures in reality. Stories that don't end. Stories that don't rest. Stories that whisper long after the world pretends to move on. But some stories feel personal, as if the darkness itself reached out and chose someone. Tonight, under the quiet pull of the Malibu mountains, we follow the final steps of Mitrice Richardson, a brilliant young woman whose life shifted in the space between light and shadow. A woman who walked into the night and vanished. Not into obscurity, not into rumor, but into a mystery that still trembles beneath the surface of Los Angeles. This isn't just a timeline. This isn't just an unsolved case. This is a story about warnings ignored, about systems that failed, and about the silence of a canyon that may still hold its secrets. Tonight, we try to understand what happened to Mitrice Richardson and why the truth has never quite come home. Chapter 1: A Bright Spirit. Before she became a headline, before the speculation and the searching, before the billboards and the vigils, Mitrice Richardson was light. Born April 30th, 1985 in Los Angeles, she grew up in a family that adored her. Her mother, Lettice, and father, Michael, shared custody, but remained involved, supportive, and committed to their daughter's success. As a child, she was quick-witted, expressive, and full of energy. In high school, she bloomed, a dancer, a cheerleader, a scholar, someone who was always surrounded by friends. She entered beauty pageants, not out of vanity, but out of joy. She loved people. She loved conversation. She loved connecting. Her academic path was just as impressive. She majored in psychology at Cal State Fullerton and graduated with honors. Her future looked like the kind of path parents dream about: graduate school, clinical practice, a place where she could use her empathy to help those who struggled. But her interests didn't end there. She danced at LGBT clubs in Los Angeles, forming friendships, embracing identity, finding community. She was openly queer, confident, comfortable, expressive. Her girlfriend at the time, Tessa, described her as deeply emotional, loving, intuitive, someone who could walk into a room and make the whole space feel warmer. To her co-workers, Mitrice was charismatic, sharp, and playful. She worked at a shipping company, tucked between customers and packages and endless small talk. But beneath the work rhythm was a young woman planning a career in psychology and marriage and stability. The whole arc of a life she hadn't even had a chance to begin. But even the brightest lights cast shadows, and in the weeks before she disappeared, those shadows began to lengthen. Her mother later said she had started talking about messages from the universe, about symbols that appeared in her dreams, about ideas that seemed philosophical one moment and disorganized the next. None of it was alarming enough to raise alarm bells. It was subtle, fleeting, like little cracks in a window you don't notice until it breaks. Friends said she was sleeping less, daydreaming more, becoming unusually introspective. But no one believed she was in danger. No one believed the darkness was coming. Not yet. Chapter 2: The Drive to Malibu. On September 16th, 2009, the moon rose over Los Angeles like a thin silver thread stretched across a fading blue sky. It was a Wednesday, a normal day, until it wasn't. Around early evening, Mitrice got in her 2000 Honda Civic and began driving west toward Malibu, a place she didn't frequent, a place she had no appointments, no friends waiting, no errands to run. The drive took her more than 40 miles from where she lived, through city lights, then suburbs, then the quiet coastal roads where the cliffs lean over the ocean and the sound of waves becomes the only conversation. Along the way, she made unusual decisions. She texted strange, poetic messages. She posted on Facebook things that didn't quite make sense. I feel the world pulling me. I'm writing a book on my life. I can't wait to share it. Her girlfriend later said she sounded off, energized in a way that didn't feel safe. But none of them could have known she was slipping into something deeper, something that looked like hypomania or dissociation, or a break from the reality she once held so firmly. As she neared Malibu, she turned into the parking lot of Jeffrey's, one of the most well-known expensive restaurants on the coast. It was the kind of place where celebrities go to disappear behind wine glasses, where the ocean view costs a premium, where servers glide instead of walk. Why she went there remains a mystery, and why she stayed becomes the turning point of the night. Valet attendants later said she arrived smiling but distant. She opened her door confidently, but her eyes seemed wrong. Not frightened, not angry, just unfocused, as if she was hearing music no one else could hear. One valet later told police she was talking about astrological signs, like she was reading something off a page only she could see. Inside, her behavior grew more erratic. She joined a couple celebrating a birthday, talking about the universe, about her life, about symbols. She wasn't drunk. She hadn't ordered alcohol, but her thoughts were scattered, her words lyrical but disjointed. She ordered a Kobe beef steak and an expensive cocktail, and then, when the bill came, she couldn't pay. She told the staff she thought dinner would be on the house. She told them she was guided there. She told them the ocean had called her. And for the first time that night, someone called the police. Chapter 3. The Arrest. When deputies arrived shortly after 9 p.m., they found a young woman who wasn't aggressive, wasn't violent, but wasn't grounded either. She spoke politely. She answered questions. But her responses drifted, a strange mix of clarity and confusion. The deputies searched her car. Inside, they found her purse, her ID, her wallet, and her phone. Everything she needed to remain safe for the night. But instead of letting her access them, they impounded her car. The restaurant manager told deputies he did not want to press charges. He simply wanted her to get home safely. He even offered to pay her bill. But deputies stated they had to arrest her for the misdemeanor of defrauding an innkeeper. This was not legally required. They had discretion. They chose to take her in. At Lost Hill Sheriff's Station, tucked deep in the Santa Monica Mountains, she was booked, fingerprinted, and placed in a holding cell. Deputies noted her behavior as weird, calm, and cooperative. She talked to herself. She stared at the floor. She asked questions that didn't track. Her mother, Lettice, called the station and warned them. "My daughter is not okay. Please do not release her until I come get her. She doesn't know that area. She won't be safe." A deputy reassured her. He said Mitrice would be kept overnight. He said she'd be safe. But the truth was different. Inside the station, discussion swirled among deputies. Should they call a mental health hold? Should they keep her until morning? Should they contact family? Instead, around 12:28 a.m., they made a decision that remains one of the most criticized actions in Los Angeles law enforcement history. They opened the door, handed her no phone, no wallet, no transportation, no belongings, and released her into the darkness. Chapter 4. Released into the night. Imagine standing outside a rural mountain sheriff's station at nearly 1 in the morning. Imagine the silence. Imagine the cold. Imagine the way the wind moves through the canyon, how the darkness feels thick enough to swallow you. No streetlights, no open businesses, no traffic, just winding black roads and the silhouettes of mountains boxing you in. This was the world Mitrice stepped into. Security footage, which the station initially claimed did not exist, later emerged, showing her walking slowly through the lobby, pausing, turning her head as if listening to something. She didn't appear frantic. She didn't appear angry. She appeared lost. She walked out the door, and the footage ends. Around 1 a.m., she was reportedly seen sitting on a bench outside the station, staring into the distance. A deputy leaving his shift saw her, and later said she seemed calm. But calm is not safe. Not when you're alone, disoriented, and unprepared in Malibu Canyon. The nearest city lights were over 10 miles away. The nearest bus station was miles downhill. The terrain was steep, rocky, twisting. Still, she began walking. Into the mountains. Into the dark. At 6:30 a.m., a homeowner named Bill Smith in Monte Nido called the sheriff's department. He reported a young black woman in his backyard, lying on the ground. Resting, he said. When he asked if she was okay, she responded softly, "I'm just resting." And then she vanished into the brush. Sheriff's deputies arrived shortly after. They took the report. They did not search the canyon. They did not call for dogs. They did not treat her disappearance as a crisis. The moment slipped away like smoke, and no officer would ever see her alive again. Chapter 5. A family left in the dark, 500 words. By sunrise, Lettice began calling, over and over, desperately trying to make sense of conflicting information. One deputy claimed they had not released her. Another said they had. Someone else said she was fine and not acting unusual. Mitrice's mother, who knew her daughter intimately, knew these statements were lies of omission. She drove from Riverside County to the impound lot, hoping her daughter had somehow made her way to her car. But the car was locked. Her phone was inside. Her wallet was inside. Her life was inside. And Mitrice was nowhere. The sheriff's department told the family that Mitrice was probably off blowing off steam, or having fun, or experimenting with freedom. They suggested she might have gone to Las Vegas. They suggested she might be on a journey. These suggestions were baseless. They were dismissive. They were dangerous. In the following days, the family begged for a search and rescue operation. They were told there was no evidence she was in danger. Missing person posters went up. Volunteers organized search parties. Helicopters scanned ridges. But the canyons around Malibu are vast, a labyrinth of ravines, caves, wildlife dens, and steep drops. And as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, one truth settled into the air like dust. If Mitrice was out there, she was not coming back on her own. Still, her mother did not give up. She pushed for investigation. She pushed for records. She pushed for accountability. Years later, the sheriff's department would be forced to admit that their handling of the release was flawed. But apologies do not resurrect the dead, and they do not answer the questions that linger like ghosts. Chapter 6: The Discovery in Dark Canyon. Nearly 11 months after Mitrice vanished, on August 9, 2010, two park rangers were patrolling an area of Malibu known as Dark Canyon, a remote and treacherous region of oak trees, boulders, narrow ravines, and dry creek beds. It's not a place people hike casually. It's steep, unstable, unforgiving. Around midday, the rangers followed the scent of decay toward a tree whose trunk had split open. They called out, expecting perhaps an animal. What they found instead was a skull. Nearby, partially covered by leaves and soil, lay a human skeleton, nude, missing clothing scattered around the area, her bra unhooked, her jeans far from the body. The positioning of the remains was strange, unnatural, almost staged. Her right leg was tucked beneath her in a way that looked posed, not fallen. Her torso had been moved. Her hair was found separate from the skull, as if it had been cut or detached. When authorities arrived, hope that this could somehow not be Mitrice evaporated. Dental records confirmed the truth. It was her. But the bizarre details didn't end there. The sheriff's department removed her remains before the coroner arrived, a direct violation of protocol. This destroyed potential evidence relating to cause of death. When questioned, deputies offered conflicting explanations. Some said they were told to remove the remains. Others said they believed the coroner was en route. Others claimed the area was unsafe. None of the explanations held. The official cause of death? Undetermined. No signs of stabbing. No signs of gunshot wounds. No clear signs of animal attack. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, and many details, the removed clothing, the positioning of the remains, the lack of fractures consistent with a fatal fall, suggested something more sinister. Even the coroner later admitted, this scene was inconsistent with a simple fall. For Lettice, the discovery offered no closure, just more questions, and a deeper ache. How did her daughter end up miles from the station in a canyon nearly impossible to navigate? Why was her clothing removed? Who moved her remains? Was she alive for hours, days, longer? And why, after so many months, were animals not responsible for more extensive damage? Law enforcement maintained she died of exposure, confusion, or accident. But families of the missing know something investigators often forget. Coincidence rarely walks alone, and nothing about Mitrice's death felt accidental. Chapter 7: Theories in the Shadows. The disappearance and death of Mitrice Richardson sparked multiple theories, each with its own unsettling implications. Theory 1: a mental health crisis gone wrong. This is the official explanation. Authorities claim that Mitrice, in a state of mania or psychosis, wandered into the canyons and succumbed to exposure. Supporters of this theory point to her behavior at Jeffries, her strange writings, and her disorganized thoughts. But this explanation doesn't account for how she traveled miles into rugged wilderness in the dark, why her clothing was removed, why her remains were arranged, why the area wasn't found earlier, Why deputies ignored clear signs of distress. Even in mental health crises, people do not typically venture into steep ravines at night. Something else had to have happened. Theory 2. She met someone after release. Some believe Mitrice encountered someone, a stranger, a local resident, or even someone from the station. Several eyewitness accounts emerged. A local resident reported seeing a woman matching Mitrice's description getting into a pickup truck. Another witness claims a deputy may have followed or interacted with her after release, something the sheriff's department denies. Others suspect she hitchhiked. If she met the wrong person, the canyon might have become a grave. Theory 3. Foul play by unknown individuals. The Malibu hills are isolated. Wealthy homes sit near remote encampments and long stretches of land that hide whatever someone wants to keep hidden. There have been reports over the years of assaults, illegal encampments, human trafficking routes, hidden bunkers. If Mitrice encountered someone with ill intent, the wilderness would have swallowed the evidence. Theory 4. The sheriff's department's involvement or negligence. This theory does not claim deliberate harm, but rather gross negligence, mishandling, and a cover-up. Key concerns include: why was she released at midnight? Why were her belongings kept from her? Why did deputies delete or hide footage initially? Why did they prematurely remove her remains? Why did they fail to search the area where she was later found? The internal investigation, conducted by the same department, found no wrongdoing. But the facts tell a different story. Theory 5. A combination of factors. The truth may not belong to one theory. It might be a chain reaction, a mental health episode, a dangerous environment, a predator, a failure in protocol, a young woman lost in a dark canyon with no help on the way. These combined could lead to tragedy. But even this blended theory doesn't explain why her remains looked positioned, why her clothing was removed, why some bones were found far from the skull, why the scene felt staged. The canyon holds its secrets tight, and the longer it holds them, the darker they feel. Chapter 8. A Mother's Fight. If not for Lettice Sutton, this case may have been forgotten, but she refused to let her daughter's story be buried. She fought for records, video footage, internal memos, search and rescue logs, accountability hearings, public attention. She stood in front of cameras, county boards, and law enforcement officials. She demanded answers. She demanded dignity for her child. And each time a door closed, she found another one to press on. Even now, more than a decade later, Lettice believes foul play occurred, whether by a stranger, the environment, or the system itself. Her strength is one of the only reasons this story remains alive. Closing the echo in the canyon. If you stand still in the Malibu hills at night, you can hear it the way the wind moves through the ravines, brushing the dry branches, rolling over the rocks. It sounds almost like a breath, a whisper, a memory. Somewhere in those mountains, during the hours after she left the Lost Hills station, Mitrice Richardson lived her final moments. She may have been scared. She may have been confused. She may have been searching for something, safety, light, meaning, in a night that offered none. And wherever her last step was taken, the truth walked with her. The truth still lies somewhere between the shadows and the silence. The official story remains unresolved. Her mother continues to search for clarity. and the canyon keeps its voice low. But here, in the space where we follow stories into the dark, we remember her. We honor her. We ask the questions others turned away from. Because stories like hers don't disappear. They linger, they stay awake, and they wait for someone to listen. This is Stranger After Dark. Good night. Keep up with future cases. Don't miss what's next. Come back for the next chapter.